The second tutorial of Django prom is empty, so I have to get into my folders. And there is something I'll have to let you know. Please do not run migration. Okay, so in my app I'll run python manage.py run saver. Okay, so mine has run. They said I have no issues left, but in yours you will see a notification that will show you need to run migrations for your project. Please do not run migration yet. The reason mine has been done like this is because I told you before, when I was creating the files and each and everything for the project for you to follow along, there was power failure. So due to that, everything was being done and you could not see what I did before. But I'm going to make everything up to you guys. So please just follow along. Do not run migrations yet. Okay? The reason is, if you run migration, you will face problems. You will fall into an error called integrity errors. And in order for you to solve that error, you will have to create a separate, a new database for your project. So just to be warned, do not run migration yet. So what I'm using as my text editor, I'm using Visual Code. It is free, of course, and it's being developed by Microsoft. So in my Visual Studio, I'll go to select app, new NV. This is my project that I'm working on. Okay, I believe you already have a text editor. You can use any text editor. You can use Sublime Text, but I'll advise you, it's more comfortable to use this Visual Code. It's easy to use and understand. So I will have to go to my project. This is my project file. I'll open it up. So in your project, I'm sure you have this first app. Okay, this is the first app and this is the second app. So you open up this project. That's the project name. All right, you have to open it up and you go to settings.py. So in your settings.py, you need to add installed apps. So I've added my installed app. That is the first app has been added as one of my installed apps. So, and also below you have to add the path to your static files and your media files. You need to add all these to your settings.py. Alright, it's very important. After adding it, you go to your urs.py, still in the same project, that's in your project. My project name is called new project. Below, you have to install all these. Okay, this ur.first app, yet you have not created this. You have not created this, but you can add it and you'll run into an error. That error will be resolved once you create this. Make sure you add this to your project. This project is creating the URLs to your static file and your media file. It is very important. You add this, and you can also check this out from the Django official website. So once this is done, you go to your first app. You have to create a file called urs.py. So to create a file in my Visual Code, I go to new file, urs.py. Okay, I will not create this file anymore because I already have it. So this is a file name. This is a file that I've created here, urs.py. This is a file. It has been created under my app, under the first app. You see, if I close, it closes. So you see it here. This is the urs.py. So you have to install all this. And I'll explain to you from .import views. All right, it tells Django that please import all the functions in my views.py. This is the views here. Okay, so this urls.py will map your URL to your views. So let's go back to, this is the main URLs, right? So sorry that. So you see, this is your app URLs and this is the project URLs. This is your app URLs and this is your project URLs. So you see here, this is your app URLs that has been mapped in your project URLs. You see, it maps to this one. Here you will see an error. You will still have an error because you have not yet created any function in your view, because here it shows that get home, that's home should be a view. All right, sorry, home should be a function in your view. So if you see here in my views.py, I have a function called home. This function has been imported here. So in views.py, create a function name called def home request. The reason why I put pass is to tell Django that there is nothing for Django to do. You know, this function is empty. Okay. So in your views.py, create a function name def.home and do this. Just give it a name here, home. So once this has been done, everything should be working correctly. And please note, do not run migrations, even though you'll be asked to run migrations. Please do not run. So in models.py, we have to create the custom user model. So you have to import the abstract base user and the base user manager. After importing, you have to create a custom user manager function. This function will create the user object. First of all, it will check if the user has an email, and also it will check if the user has a password. If the user doesn't have an email or a password, an error will be raised to the user in order for them to enter their the email or the password. And if everything works well, or if the input is valid, so you see, user.self.mother.email equals self.normalize. So this will set the email, the user email. This will set the user email, and this will set the user password, and this will save the user into the database, and it will create the user, which will return the user object that has been saved in the database. This function is to create the super user model. Sorry, this function is to create the super user. You see? All right, and now this is your class model of your custom user model. So here, username equals to field equals to email. So now this tells Django that do not use my username as my as the username field, which means whenever the user wants to log in, by default Django uses the username for login and the password, but instead Django will request for the email address. So that's why we entered here. This is to handle the admin form. So here the user object is being saved. Object, it calls a custom user manager. This is it. This is a function which is being called in order to serve the user, to save the user object. Manage equals to true, database table name equals to user, verbose name equals to user, verbose name plural equals to users. So all these you have to add. You have to add all these. Set properties. and you can find more information on the official Django website. And let's go back to our settings.py. In settings.py, you need to tell Django that Django, please do not use the custom user model. This is very important. So you need to add this to your Django to your Django. That's his settings.py. There is something you need to add, which is very important. Let me see if I've added it yet. So this is it, of user.mother. So what it tells Django that Django, do not use the default user mother. Use the custom user mother. This is a custom user mother. This is it. So it tells Django that do not use the default user mother, but instead use my custom user mother in first app.custom user. So this is the app name. You see? First app models.py, and this is a model. This is a model name. This is a model name. The app name, because your app could be anything. Your app could have a different name. So if you try to write the same name as mine, you will run into an error of which you don't have. So if you have a different app name, so you should know that this is your app name and this is a model inside that app. This is a model name which is inside that app. So if you run your app now, you will still run into an error that will ask you to run in migrations. So to run in migrations, you need to write python manage.py make migrations. Well, mine says that no changes has been detected, but yours will run. Then to finalize your migration, run python manage.py migrate. Okay, yours will run correctly. Python manage.py run server to run the server. Since I'm using Dell, I use Ctrl+C to break my server. So now to create a super user, you use python manage.py create super user. Here you enter the email. The email could be anything. Blah, 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 blah. You enter the password. So the super user has been created successfully. Well, it might have logged into my admin already. So let me log in again. So you should remember that you're running on this host. Sorry, is my thing running? Page not found. So to get into the admin, what you need to do, since you'll be running here, normally it will show you page not found, and I'll tell you the reason. It's because we have not yet added anything to our home view, so that's why you got this error, but there is nothing wrong. We're going to solve it. So you just need to go to admin, right? You enter the email and the password that you use to create your super user. Okay, so now everything has been done successfully. You could see we have not run into any sort of error, but there is one problem. There should be a field for adding users here. We do not have it yet. So what will be done is, in your app, that's the first app folder, you have to create a file name called forms.py. a file name called forms.py. So in forms.py, import all this in your forms.py. Right? So what this does, it gets the user model instance. Right? So do all this. Do all this is very important. So let me explain it bit by bit. So this form is for custom user admin, since we are not using the default Django authentication system. Forms authentication adding security users info. This will request for the first password, second password, fields email, claim. It will check if the first password equals to the second password. If not, it will raise a validation error. If not, it will return the first password. So here now, what happens is it sets the fields, that's the password fields, to hash, so as the password could not be visible or cannot be visible. So this is the first form in the user admin. This is the first form, and this is the second form in the user admin. When an admin tries to create a user for our website. So now the next thing is we have to set things up in our admin.py to make these forms to display in our admin page. So now we're in the forms.py. Okay, so these are the required fields which will be needed from the second form. So in admins.py, you could see what we have done here. You can see what we have done. All right, each and everything has been imported from, you see, from .forms. The reason why we put .forms, it means that this forms.py is being imported from the same app itself. All right, so you can also write it like first app, but there was no need because this form is from the same app. So that is why we just write .forms. Or .forms is just written on it. So all the forms has been imported. You see here. Then this is the admin.py. All right, you make sure you do all this. Now the form has been registered. So if the code is correct, if no mistake, then everything should just work well. Let me refresh my page. You see here, it is out. So now I can add a new user. Let me just first of all check my users. Okay, these are the users I've created, and they are all admins. Unknown field, full name, country name, public name, these names. So there is a problem in the field. So what we should do is, I've added some fields which are not supposed to be there, which is profile picture. This is not supposed to be there because this is not in the model. What else again? Unknown fields, full name. So let's check. Do we have full names here? No, we do not. So full names. Let's see. Country. Wow. Okay. Well, the problem has been resolved. You see? Okay. So now we can add new users. Okay. So this is a form. You see this form here, right? This one. This is a form here. This is a form. This is a form. And now let's say gmail.com. Schofield. Okay. So the user has been created, and now this is the second form. This is the second form. So everything has been done correctly, and we have not run into any kind of errors. So we have successfully created a custom user model. So stay tuned for the next tutorial.